for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the witnesses for their willingness to appear before the committee and help us with our work. Ms. Katzen, according to the reviews conducted by various nonpartisan government watchdog organizations, the Trump administration engaged in a sweeping effort to reverse or roll back critical federal agency regulations at the behest of private industry and to the great detriment of the health and safety of the American people. As reported by ProPublica, an independent investigative organization, President Trump began his administration in 2017 by ordering federal agencies to establish so-called deregulation teams. He then promptly stacked those teams out of public view with political appointees with deep industry ties and significant conflicts of interest. As a matter of fact, in 2019, Public Citizen, a nonpartisan consumer advocacy group, issued a report entitled, "Your Wish is My Command, Corporate Capture of the Regulatory Process Evident in Trump's First 2 Years." I'd like to get unanimous consent to enter this into the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
So one day, people were protected and had environmental protections, and the next day they did not. Professor Katzen, would you agree that industry representatives should not have a disproportionate or controlling influence when it comes to the process of agency rulemaking?
I would, relying on the adverbs and adjectives that you use, disproportionate influence. They do have a lot to contribute, and the whole OIRA process that we've been referring to here encourages those who are either burdened or benefit to come forward and contribute to the process of rulemakings, because they're on the ground. They're at in the factories, on the plants. They know the implications, and they should be heard, but so should the beneficiaries.
Well, therein lies the rub. These were deregulation teams, and they were industry representatives.
Exactly.
That was my question.
Exactly.
So let's just, so what happens to the representation for vulnerable communities if that's the arrangement that is made for deregulation?
There is none,
Right.
regrettably.
This corporate-driven regulatory agenda proved particularly harmful in rolling back critical environmental protections that were in place solely to protect the health and safety of the American people. According to the New York Times analysis, the Trump administration officially reversed, revoked, or otherwise rolled back more than 100 environmental rules in 4 years. These included landmark protections against carbon dioxide emissions from power plants and cars and trucks, and limits on water pollution, prohibitions on toxic chemicals, reducing standards on methane emissions for oil and gas facilities, and regulations to ensure clean water. Professor Katzen, can you please discuss how agency regulatory actions would benefit from greater transparency and more equitable and meaningful public participation?
Thank you for the question. President Biden, on day one, made it clear that he wanted everyone at the table, not just some select few who had dollars in their pockets, and that it was important to be able to open the process to what I call the regulatory beneficiaries, those who are expected to benefit from the regulations. We have had a fabulous system of notice and comment for rulemaking, but it has been disproportionately those who are going to be burdened by the regulation, the proposed regulation, rather than those who might benefit. They have not been at the table. And therefore, it is sometimes conceivable, and in fact has occurred, that a regulation may be issued to meet a particular problem which doesn't really solve the problem that the people want solved because they haven't been heard. They have not been welcome in the process. And the most recent modernization of the most recent executive order, 14094, or I'm missing a number, specifies that agencies are to do their best to bring the marginalized communities, the regulatory beneficiaries, to the table, and that OIRA is to do its best to make sure that their voices are heard in the process.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your courtesy, and I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Higgins from Louisiana.